afternoon. I am definitely going to have a late lunch today, but I am currently at the memorial center that's adjacent to the memorial park. I know I said I was going to go get lunch, but it just started downpouring, and it looks like it might have cleared up now, but seeing how this is actually part of something I wanted to see while I was here, I decided that I'd go ahead and just turn around and come park. I drove about maybe a kilometer and then just parked in the museum parking lot, which is free. And it's really crazy in here. Like, it's really somber. I'm here by myself currently. It makes sense, right? It's lunchtime and no one else is here. Maybe one or two employees. But I just went around reading everything. This place is actually fairly small. I'm gonna go walk around and see if there's anything larger to it. But it's just one little hallway, really, that has a ton of information in it. Everything from they did revisits to look at the history back in 2011 and 2017, as well as in the 90s. And remember, this event happened on 5/18/1980. There was quite a bit that happened. The president and prime minister at the time were both actually jailed, one for life and one for 17 years before getting pardoned for national unity, is what they said, for their roles in this like massacre. And it's interesting because the first thing is that they kind of tried to cover it up. Nothing actually happened. But then you look at it and it becomes an event did happen, but it wasn't as bad as they said it was. And I mean, the president, Chun, I believe his name was, he actually he was just sued in 2017 because he actually wrote that a monk who was in Gwangju during that time was crazy for saying that there were helicopters flying around shooting indiscriminately at people. And then they found out through the angles of bullet holes in certain buildings that there was nowhere in the sky other than a helicopter that could have shot down into crowds indiscriminately, so to say, and it hit the side of a building. So he was sued for defaming the monk. And it's interesting to kind of understand all the different things that happened. Like on the 17th, the day before the massacre, all the universities were shut down. And if you recall in my park video, I was talking about how there were all university students that were protesting. And it was real easy for them to protest, or gather, I should say, because they all went to school. And when they got to school, the thing that happened was they noticed that the gates were closed and there were armed guards, and all the students were just waiting to see what would happen. When the teachers and professors arrived, they're like, what type of joke is this? I don't have time for this. I need to get to work. And then the students started witnessing the teachers getting beat by the soldiers. And at that time, the students started to gather more and more, and that was kind of the start of the movement. And so they started to gather more and more and more, and then they started to get power. And that's when the soldiers kind of started fearing what was happening. And on their side, the soldiers' side, it was a new regime coming in, and they were trying to show, they were trying to do a power grab by a show of force. Mixing these two things up just didn't go very well. And the story that I was talking about from the taxi driver, it's actually in here, and I'm walking over to it because it's actually in the records section. When he came back, the reporter has since passed away, but he came back in 2005 to donate photographs that he took in 1980 to this museum, I call it a museum or a memorial. I think it's more of a center because they actually still do stuff around the world. There's things for Malaysia. There's things for Iraq. There's a lot of things behind the scenes still that they're still working on. And I just wanted to get this guy's name. Jürgen Heinzpeter is the guy's name. He passed away in 2016, and posthumously, the city of Gwangju gave him honorary citizenship to Gwangju. And that's the story I was talking about, where he snuck in, and it was his photos and his video that let the world know what was going on. Now, there is something, and I wish there was more information about it. I'm walking back over here because there's a convenient place for me to put this camera down. I wish there was more information about it, but there is something about United States being involved in understanding, and that there was something going on behind there, and there's not much information that's given. There is some like hundreds of thousands of documents that came from the US that were declassified for this uprising. So it'll be interesting to find out what more they could actually put up. But there's actually a ton of books here. There is actually a report that's on the other side of this wall that the camera's sitting on right now. That's playing. Unfortunately, it's not subtitled, so it's only in Korean. But on the wall that you sit down to watch the video are letters from people of that time. And those letters are like crazy to kind of hear. Like how a woman was just in her living room and she got shot in the face through the cheek and the ear as she was in her living room by a stray bullet, because they were really just shooting indiscriminately, and she was too scared to go to the hospital. Her husband was there helping her throughout the night, and then they waited until morning. And you know, there was probably like a curfew and everything too. It was that type of martial law. And so it's like there's just a lot of powerful stories like that here, and it's kind of cool because I've been here maybe like 15-20 minutes now, and I'm done. Like, you don't really need more than a half an hour here. That's how big this place is. If you spoke Korean and understood Korean, you might be able to spend an hour by watching that video. I think it's a half an hour long, but they're discussing the events that happened. One of the really cool things that came out of this, if you want to look at that, like that silver lining, is that this center is kind of known as a center for like democracy and freedom, and they go around the world trying to help others now. And a lot of Korea's like big awards for literature are the May Literature Awards, actually came from this because of that type of reporting like Jürgen did. It's kind of neat to see how this event has shaped the way that the Korea is, as well as how other places in the world are. Like I said, that it's affected the world and that they help other places in the world. Like places like Germany actually in May have these festivals to kind of celebrate democracy and freedom. And it's because of the May 18th massacre, or uprising as they like to call it. So it's a really, really interesting walkthrough, and there's tons of English here, which is kind of nice, you know, sans that video. But it was really interesting to learn a little bit more about what happened here and all the sacrifices that were made. And yeah, I'm feeling, it's a somber feeling, but I'm feeling great. Like I love the fact that I learned all this. I'm going to walk around the building a little bit more. The building's huge to have such a small area for the 518 uprising stuff. So I'm going to walk around a little bit more. But I think part of the reason the building is so huge is that they do have an auditorium for speakers to come and things like that. And so they kind of probably have like an events center here as well. And that kind of makes sense considering the work that they do here still. So other than that, I'm going to walk around. I'll do one last check-in probably when I'm getting out the door, unless I find something else. And then it's off to go get lunch. The weather does look like it turned around and it has gotten better. That is a window behind me right there, not a painting. So yeah, it was crazy when I came in. The rain was so heavy that you could hear it on the ceiling. But really awesome place. Check back in a moment. And welcome back. I am in the parking lot of the 518 Memorial Culture Center. I'm walking towards my car. If I didn't mention this before, parking is free here. The place is slammed today. There's actually some sort of service happening. There's an event. Kind of like I was saying before, I walked up and down all these flights of stairs to kind of see that there is just a huge event center, and people were gathering and going inside. They had all these like flowers and everything. So I didn't really feel that I was probably part of that, so I didn't join in. On my way to the parking lot here, I actually passed a room that had a sign in front of it with a arrow pointing to one way, and it's kind of funny how they did that, because automatically it would make you think, don't go into this room, just go beyond it. And so I stepped around the sign and went into the room, and it was right next to the security desk. And the guy didn't say anything. He just was like, whatever. And the room was even more information about the 518 memorial. There was a lot of stuff in there about women and their support for the Gwanju Uprising at this time, as well as kind of like photos of them nursing and feeding and doing all the support roles that you don't really see. Now, the room is completely in Korean, so I was using my phone as much as possible, but being that I was underground and in a real tight spot, the reception wasn't all that great, and I couldn't really translate too much of it. One really interesting thing that I saw, or a couple really interesting things that I saw, was one, there was a photo album of photos from the courtroom, and I could only assume that these are the soldiers that just shot into the students. You know, that craziness, right? That whole, it just reminds me of that whole, God, I forget what the study is called. The one where the teachers have to push a button and they could see if they're hurting a student, and if they're just ordered to do so, if they're willing to go all the way to kill a student. Mind you, this is an experiment that I'm referring to. And wow, the sun just came blasting out. It's interesting to see how many people actually just follow orders, and I want to know if the soldiers were just following orders or if they're doing their own thing. You know, that is a real big thing there. And then two, there was a wall to kind of create your own ribbon for peace, which I decided to go ahead and do, and I posted it up there. And it was for peace, democracy, human rights. There's actually a big sign right above it that actually I was able to translate. That was really neat. And I mean, the rest of it was just great photos from the era. So wow, there's a huge group of students that are about to come in for whatever this event is. They're just walking over right now. But anyhow, that does finish my time up here at the Memorial Park and Memorial Hall. And I think it's definitely time to go get lunch. I am so hungry that I'm not hungry, if that makes any sense. Anyhow, I'll check back in the next video.